And on the one hand, I saw that all the time because Corman, in a way, was doing and was pioneering that because he was pre-selling everything foreign. And yes, exactly as Cassian said, making his movie for, in fact, less than what he would get there. So he was always making, he knew, that's why he would say he was in profit before he started. But in terms of how that works now, Haunting Connecticut is actually a good example of that, because when we sold that to Gold Circle as a pitch, they loved it, they agreed to do it. Plan was for a $10 million movie. We got pretty deep into it, you know, and into a draft, in fact, that everybody was really happy with, and that Lionsgate, who had come on in particular, got excited about because they loved the script and said, great, we'll co-do it. And we were really moving quite quickly towards that when in that May, or whatever it was, Paul and the folks from Gold Circle went to Cannes to talk to their foreign buyers. And there had just been a bunch of horror failures that were utterly different than this movie. They were kind of in that brief little torture porn wave, and there had been a backlash against them. So anything that was being called horror in that foreign market at Cannes was being dinged. And even though, and he's on the phone to us from there saying, tell me how to even describe this movie to these people so that they're not saying it's a horror movie and immediately giving me these estimates like Paul's saying that are lower than what we want them to be. We tried that. We're describing it as a thriller, it's this, it's that, whatever. Didn't matter. In the end, Paul comes back and says, okay, because of what these guys have told me, and again, these weren't even the commitments, they were just the estimates, like Cassian is talking about, Paul said, we need to make this for 8. Now, typically a writer wouldn't even actually be in that meeting, but I'm in there, and they're talking about, well, we could do this, we could do this, and I said, well, you know, we sort of do this with Roger all the time. You know, don't you think, if we haven't started yet, if you need to take $2 million out of the budget, let's take it out of the script. You know, we don't squeeze the days, don't do that. I mean, you can do that, it's probably going to backfire. We actually had to do that. We then did, the final rewrite we did of that movie actually was to find a way on the page to take $2 million out of it. That is to both reduce the amount of shooting time we have to be, to combine a couple of locations, to drop not that important a sub-character, and lo and behold, they were able to do it at this lowered budget. Plus then, yes, they used the soft money, they shot it in, I'm blanking on the town in Canada, which luckily actually did look like this little town in Connecticut that it had actually taken place in, and they did a very good job of sourcing the location and found a way to do that. And then because of that soft money, in effect, they actually got, in effect, making it for more than that. The sort of typical complaining writer's comment to that only is that due to the nature of the guild's deals on these things and agreements everybody's made, the bonuses and other things you get, which you're looking, I'm all excited when that movie opens because I'm going, we only made it for $8 million, and I get box office bonuses based on how many times the budget we make. And the first weekend we made almost 4 times the budget. That was the real budget, not the budget on paper, which which is the calculation of soft money and blah, blah, blah. Suddenly, this is being budgeted for the purposes of what actually has to get paid to people like me as like a $16 or $18 million movie, right? So it works in all kinds of ways. But this is a perfect example of that, yes, Gold Circle did well in that film in part, and Lionsgate did because they actually, at a moment like that, they heeded what that was. They didn't actually blow through it. They found, and we found, creative ways to tighten it up to make it work for that smaller amount, and it did well.
Well, and I want to ask you, because before we were talking about his relationship with Corman and how the restrictions often bred creativity, and so this is a great example, and you shaved $2 million off your film. In the end, was it a better film? Was it tighter? Did it force you to make choices you might not have made otherwise?
Oh, it's certainly possible. It certainly didn't hurt it in that case, and that's why one of the things I always say: do it at the level. And I say this as a director, or as a producer, or as the writer. I mean, the writing, that's the cheapest. It's the cheapest part of the process. It's not costing anybody to have some idiot like me sitting there with a pencil or a typewriter. And if you can change things there, obviously it will. And yes, I am a big believer in constraints. That the story that Matt and I were joking about before was Brain Dead, the better of the Corman movies I did, and the fight I had with Roger, the fact that I had delivered it at 90 minutes and like 30 seconds, which seemed really like a good length for it, and that he kept saying, oh, it's perfect, it's great, everybody loves it, but please, you have to bring it back at 87 minutes. And I, being a first-time filmmaker and really full of myself and thinking every tiny little frame was precious, which is ludicrous, made a big fight about it, and finally was like, well, you got to just tell me why. What is it? Is it too long? Is it this or this? He's like, no, none of those things. The boxes that the crates that he would ship the prints in are exactly big enough, the size AA crate, to fit an 87 movie plus heads and tails and leaders and trailers. And for the sake of your extra precious 3 minutes, I'm not going to go up to the size A4-5 box because that's going to cost me, you know, $50 to $100 over the course of the summer while we're driving your prints around. Not going to do it. You will cut the film to fit into that box. Now, there's a case where it definitely did not hurt the film. It hurt my pride. It hurt my sense of importance as an artist. But no, and a lot of that would be true. But other constraints can. And I think that goes back to things these guys are saying at the beginning about being careful about making a micro-budgeted movie, you know, because you better conceive of it in a way like, say, the Blumhouse guys do and a lot of people do, that it really works with that budget. Because if it doesn't, there's nothing worse than, you know, no one's going to... It cost the person who paid to see your movie would have had to pay just as much to watch a $200 million movie. So, you know, don't give them the crappy version of the $200 million movie. They're going to wish they had gotten the other movie. But if you're giving them something like Napoleon Dynamite that they were never going to see in the other way, then they're going to be happy.